Good morning, everyone. I got asked a question this morning. Well, last week you didn't make no joke. You're going to make a joke about the Cougars today. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because my Bible says, do have mercy on the weak and help lift up your brother when he is down. And, you know, they got blown out last night. We did not. I'm so glad you're all here for the second week of Strapped. If you weren't here last week, we started a series talking about Strapped, being buried in debt, and how to find financial freedom. Each week kind of builds on itself. So if you weren't here, you can go to gptacoma.info. You're going to find a video message link, and you can watch that. And we know that with money, the Bible tells us this in Proverbs. This has kind of been our theme verse. In Proverbs 22:7, it says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the servant to the lender." So that's our theme verse. So this word servant in the Hebrew actually means to be a slave or in bondage. The borrower is a slave to the lender. Now, people don't go around and go like, oh, I'd like to do that, but I'm just a slave to the visa. But we don't talk that way. We don't say I'm in bondage to my car loan. What we say is, I'd love to do this, but I don't have the money. I'd love to have more kids, but we can't afford them. We love a bigger house, but we can't afford the house we're in. We love this, but. And that's the language you'll hear, and maybe some of us have used. So we're going to talk about that. And as I said last week, money is an emotional subject. As I say money and I begin, everybody's blood pressure has now risen. Here we go. It's one of those services. Everyone breathe. We're going to talk about, last week we talked about doing stupid stuff. And I admitted that for 4 years I paid $25 a month for a gym membership that I never used. That's pretty stupid. So I've done stupid stuff. You've probably done some not smart stuff. So we have no guilt in this room. I said last week we're shake it off. Shaking it all the guilt off. There's no shame. We're not talking about giving. If you hear anything about giving, that's between you and God, because we're not talking about giving. We're simply trying to find this freedom that God offers. And how do we have freedom in our life so we're not living strapped? Last week we talked. We don't serve money. We serve God. We don't serve. Jesus said you can't serve both. It's impossible. He didn't say you can't serve God in power and prestige and popularity. No, he chose money because he knew our heart would be drawn to money. Our heart would be tempted by money. And he says, let's put everything in place. God's over here. Money's over here. The relationship is I follow God. Money serves us as I serve God. Not I serve money. God, you better just come along. Oh, wait, just stay there. Money's going too fast for you. Money serves us as we serve God. Money gives us opportunities. It gives us options. It gives us back time. So we're going to start this morning's message with an old rule. A rule that most of you won't know because it's older than you are. And this old rule goes this way. If you didn't have the money, you weren't allowed to buy it. I think you missed it. If you didn't have the money, you couldn't buy it. You don't have the cash, you don't get to buy. Now, some of you under like 60 are like, well, credit cards? They didn't exist. What about, putting things on them? Mortgages didn't exist. If you didn't have the money, you couldn't buy it. And our society lived this way until about 60, 70 years ago. Let's give you a little bit of an example. Before the Great Depression, only 2% of the homes had mortgages. 2% of homes have mortgages before the Great Depression. 98%, no mortgage. 40 years later, only 2% don't have mortgages, and 98% of the homes have mortgages. We did a complete flip in 40 years. Well, what happened? Why did that happen? Because some of us grew up in the Depression era, and some of us had parents that grew up in the Depression era. They were saving tinfoil. Wash off the tinfoil and save it. Use the butter tub, save it. Like, I don't know anybody else like me, like butter tubs were your Tupperware and sour cream. Like, you didn't get to go to the store and buy Tupperware. Because our parents or our grandparents grew up in a time when they had nothing and they learned the value to save. Then the boomers come along and said, forget that. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to have a really good time. And they took on debt. And banks aren't stupid. You want to take on debt? We'll give you debt. You want to take on more? And as we did, house prices rose because you would be willing to take on more mortgages. And as time went on, we spent ourselves and had a great time. And now a lot of people are in their 60s ready to retire, but they can't because they've spent their whole life. And so now they sing a song, I owe, so off to work I go. They don't get to have fun and party. No, they got to work. Now, here's the fun thing. We look at the younger generation and those darn millennials. They're just a bunch of entitled, spoiled brats. They just want everything. They really don't. They're no different than any other generation who has said, I want more than my parents had, and I want it now. The difference is, you worked for 30 years to get what you have. They feel they deserve it the moment they graduate college. I should have the 3-bedroom house, the 2 cars. I should be making $100,000. I should have vacations. And they haven't worked a day in their life yet. That's the only difference, but the attitude of entitlement has always been there. It just looks a little bit different. So what we have now is a world full of people who are fakers, phonies, a generation of pretenders. We're all pretending it's okay. Everything's okay. Well, I've got all this stuff. Look how great my life's going. Don't look behind the curtain and see all the debt. And the Proverbs 13 says this, one man pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Proverbs 13:7 says, one man pretends to be rich, yet he has nothing. Sounds like our country. We have 3 types of people right now. We have the haves and the have-nots. You've all heard that, right? Haves, the have-nots, and this other group that they have it, but they have not paid for it yet. So they got it, but they ain't paid for it yet. And that's where a lot of people are living right now, is in this. I've got it, but I haven't paid for it yet. They are strapped. They're slaves to debt. And we don't want to see you live that way. We want to see you live life free, and free from debt, and free from being a slave, so you can live the full life that God offers you. You can make a difference in your world. So why are we talking about this in church? Because God's plan for your life is not to be a slave, but to live in freedom, and to live a life that's able to make a difference. And the more free you are, the more difference you can make. Why are we talking about this in church? Separation of money in church. If we don't talk about it, no one else is talking about it. Your high schools aren't teaching this. The colleges aren't teaching this. The only thing we're teaching people to do is how to get more debt and how to get more into the system. We need to start teaching people how to get out. And so that's what we're doing. I told you, we're going to be relevant church, and we're being relevant today. We're going to embrace some biblical values to do this. Not just worldly principles. We're going to look at some biblical principles. We're going to look at 3 in particular. And the first one is fill in your notes, and number 1 is we're going to embrace the value of self-control. Embrace the value of self-control. And I'm honest, some people right now think self-control is a 4-letter word. That is a very triggering word for some people. If you tell me to be self-controlled, you're telling me not to be me. I'm not telling you not to be you. I'm telling you to get some control of yourself in situations. Proverbs 25:28 says, like a city whose walls are broken down is a man who lacks self-control. If you don't have self-control, you're a city with broken down walls. Okay, what does that mean? So in the olden days, the only thing of protection they had were their walls. You know, you'd put a city in the middle, but you were out there and you didn't want it open to the enemy to come in and people to sneak in and either kill you, take your stuff, kidnap your family, do whatever. So they built large walls. And your city was only as strong as its walls. And so at night, you would look at the wall and go, I can sleep tonight because I'm protected. I'm sleeping tonight because I have security. I'm sleeping tonight because everything's going to be okay. Now imagine those walls gone. Imagine the doors in your house don't exist anymore and your house is wide open. How well are you going to sleep? You're probably going to be a little nervous, right? One eye open the whole night. Well, the Bible's trying to tell us that if we don't have self-control in our own life, we have no security, we have no protection, we have no security on the inside. We're going to be nervous and stressed all the time, and we're going to sleep less. I think that kind of talks about our society right now that is so heavily medicated because we can't find peace. So if we reverse that scripture, we could say if we have self-control, then we're like a city with strong walls. So we need to have some self-control. You've all seen the kid in the grocery store, and you've all given it the side eye like, I can't believe they're doing that. I want the candy. I want the toy. I want that. I want that. Give me. And they're just throwing a fit, and the poor mom or dad's just embarrassed. Anybody have kids that did that before? Yeah. I have kids who have done that, and I have been a kid who has done that. I can freely admit that. But we need to be honest with ourselves and recognize inside each one of us is a little kid. I want that now. I want it now. I want it. It's that J.G. Wentworth song. You ever get that stuck in your head? You're going to now. It's my money and I want it now. Now, it's a different concept, but it's the same thing. It's mine and I want it now. Thomas does this a lot. It's my money and I want to spend it now. I want to get this now. And I want this now. And I want that now. And we all do that. I want that shirt. I want that TV. I want that car. I want that haircut. I want. But we need to get some control of that and recognize that that's more harmful than it is good. We have to recognize in each one of us, we are in one there's two categories, and we're in one or the other. And there's some stereotypes that kind of go with this, but I'm not going to get in there. But one of the categories is the nickel and dime spenders. Well, I want it, so it's only $20, so I'll do it. Well, it's only $15. That's only $12. It's $19.99, $34.99 on TV. It's not, normally it's $100, but I can spend $30 and $40 and $20. And before you know it, the pair of shoes turns into a belt to match, turns into a blouse to match, turns into a pair of pants, turns into the makeup, and then the hair, and then the jewelry all matches, and you went from $20 to a couple $100, and you go on with your nails and everything else, and it's spend, but little bits. So that's one category. Then there's the other extreme. You don't nickel and dime, you just do it all at one time. You come home, honey, I bought a new truck today. You want to see it? What? You didn't even talk to me. Yeah, but I got a great deal at the dealership. Hey, honey, I was out today and there was 4K TVs for sale, so I bought 3 of them. I hope that's okay. Anybody married to that guy? One group, nickel and dimes. The other one, you don't wait around. We just, boom, we're going to blow it all in one shot. So which category do you fit into? We have to recognize that just because I got it for 20% off, it was a good deal. Yeah, but you spent 80% you didn't have. Now, if you want to get out of debt, you could have saved 100% and not spent anything. We got to recognize which category. And now, see, charity's really good at being a person who helps us stay on track. She says no a lot to spending. And it's one of the best gifts she gives me. Because we'll be out shopping, and although we're doing okay, and we've saved a little bit money, and in one of the categories, and charity, they have a sweatshirt, and it's purple, and it has a gold W on it, and I want it, and I really, really want it. Puppy dog eyes. And she looks at me, no. Okay. But I've given her permission to do that because that's how we can go on. Now, same thing happens when we go shopping. It's a little more rare with her, but when she sees something for Star Wars, Aaron, yeah, I want this. I love you, but no. You can't have it, and here's why. We've had to embrace the value of no because we want to be debt-free, and if we want to be debt-free, we need to learn to say the word no. So I think we should practice really quick. Ready, everyone? No. One more time. No, that's pretty strong no. That's pretty convicted no. So let's test this out a little bit. Can we say no? All right. Ladies, do you really need to get your nails done every week? Every month? I heard a couple say absolutely. How many people go once a month? Anybody going like once a week? So I'm asking a question. I'm going to ask a question, and don't get offended because we're going to make fun of the guys in a minute. Who are you getting your nails done for? Some will say, for me. I get it for me. It makes me feel good. Now, others of you have said, well, it's actually for I'm trying to attract someone. I'm trying to make my husband happy, my boyfriend happy. And if that's you in this category, I'm going to ask you a question. When was the last time you heard a man go, hey, dude, yeah, look at the nails on that one. Those things are fantastic. Do you think they're real? I've never said that in my entire life. I've never met a guy who says that. So let me just be blunt. If you're doing it for a man, he doesn't care. I mean, like, you can clip your fingernails and, like, file them down. That's good. But all the extra, who are you really doing it for? You're doing it to impress other women or yourself. Who cares what other people think if you're going in debt to do it? Because we're talking about, I think the average is like $20, $25 to go. If you go twice a month, that's $50. If you go every month, that's $600 a year. And you've spent in 10 years $6,000 for something that no one's attracted to. How much better would you feel at the end of the year if you had $600 left to pay off a credit card where you didn't have to stress tomorrow, are you going to pay the electrical bill? So that's the questions you have to start. Okay, now hold on. Now, guys, do you really need to go golfing, bowling, or to a sporting event all the time, multiple times a month? No. I didn't like this one. If you're trying to get out of debt, do you really need that? Or is getting out of debt more important? I have to put aside time to not go golfing because we can't afford it, and it really frustrates me. But I'd rather not be in debt or spend money I don't have and hope later I can make it back up. Do you really need your $4 cup of coffee from Starbucks every day with your little bit of whipped cream and sprinkles? No. Now, last week, you all thought you were funny. Well, I don't go to Starbucks. I go to the grocery store and pick up a can of energy drink, or I go to the gas station. I had a buddy of mine I was talking about this with, and he goes, look, I don't go to Starbucks. I go to a gas station, I get a cup of coffee and an energy drink. And then I go on about my day. So I don't do that, so I don't need that. So how much does all that cost you? Well, like $5. $5 a day? And you can make coffee at home, and you don't really need the energy drink if you just would go to bed a little bit sooner. No, we don't need some of this stuff. There's other things we can do. Your 12-year-old doesn't need the newest iPhone. They don't even need a cell phone. I was 22 before I got one, and somehow I survived. They don't need the newest, nicest, brand new things. If we're going to truly get out of debt, if that's our goal to live free, then we've got to learn to say no. Do you really need a brand new car? You really need a brand new car. I know this is the hard one because a couple car dealerships in here, they're really good about you can get cash back $3,000 on this car if you drive it off the lot today. Here's the problem. You go buy a brand new car. Every car dealership, if car person will be honest with you, they're going to tell you, you're going to go from the parking lot to the street and in an instant lose 20% of the value of the car. No matter how many cash back dollars you got and how long your payments are out or when you're going to get it, I want you to imagine the next time you think about buying a brand new car, spending $15,000 on a car, drive into South Tacoma Way, take $3,000 in bills and throw it out the window. That's what you're doing. So maybe we say no to the new car now so we can say yes to more important things. And if we start building in some no's into our life, it's not a life forever that we're going to have to say no. We're going to find our window of no's so we can get out of debt. Then we can start saying yes. You can get your nails done every day if you want to, if you're out of debt and can afford it. You can go golf every single day if you're out of debt and can afford it. Buy the newer car. Don't buy the brand new car. Never buy a brand new car. Go get a one-year lease or something like that. But you can say no now so you can say yes later. Most people, when it comes to debt, they get so scared of saying no because I can't say no forever. I just got to enjoy life at some point. You will if you say no now. Number 2 value. Embrace the value of sacrifice. Embrace the value of sacrifice. There is one common theme throughout Scripture. When we talk about a core value of Christianity, it is this idea of sacrifice. This idea of sacrifice. In Hebrews 12:2 it says, "Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross." He made the brutal sacrifice to take the beatings, to take the cross, to take death for the joy set before him. He had to give some things up. He had to literally lay down his life. And the joy set before him was what? It was pleasing his Father, and it was you. You were the joy set before him. That the only way he could get you is he have to give up his life and sacrifice something to get something he thought was better. And you was what was better. Sacrifice means giving up something we love for something we love even more. We give up something we love for something we love more. And sometimes it really hurts. Christmas is coming. We're at 7 days later. We're at what, like 57, 56 days from Christmas. Last week, $1,000 is the average person goes into debt for Christmas. What if you went crazy and sacrificed cable television for the next year so you could have a debt-free Christmas? I love watching my shows. I love my shows, but if I give that up, I could be debt-free for Christmas. If I stay in the smaller house a little bit longer, one of us doesn't have to work and we can raise our children. I was talking to a kid today. I could drive to school instead of living in a dorm so I don't have to bring in the extra expenses. You can brown bag it to lunch every day for work. Take your lunch to work. There are studies that show that the average person, if they would just bring their own lunch to work, in their lifetime, instead of going out to McDonald's or Subway or whatever, you can save $112,000 in your lifetime by just taking your lunch to work. What would your life look like when you retired with an extra $112,000? We need to start saying no to things we like for things we really, really love. And when we shop and do buy, we need to start asking the right questions. Every one of us has been trained to ask 2 questions. How much down and how much a month? And big purchases. How much down and how much a month? I'm going to let you in on a secret. My dad sold cars for years in the early 2000s. He was a transition between jobs, and it was the only one he could get. And it's really hard for him because he's an ethical man. A man's been in ministry, and car dealers, I don't care what they tell you, 95% of them are pretty unethical. They're out for their penny. The more you pay, the longer you pay, the more money they make. So I said, Dad, what's the thing that bothers you most? Or what's the thing that people do most wrong? He says, when people walk in and simply say, well, I want to keep my payments between $200 and $300, $250, that's all I care. I want my monthly payment. That's their pitch. Just get me to $250. The car dealers hear ka-ching, 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 ka-ching in their heads. They are cash registers. There is blood in the water and the sharks are coming. Because here's what happens. You say, well, I only want to pay $250 a month. You don't care how much it costs or for how long. You've already told them your goal is $200. And they can make any car $250 a month. And as time's gone on, it used to be 4 or 5 years for loans. Now we're going 7, 8. I've heard of someone who's got 9 or 10 years on their car because they got their payment down. And what happens, the longer you pay, the more interest you pay, and the more you pay for your car. We need to start asking the questions, how much is the total cost? And then can I figure out if it works? And if I can't afford it, I can't buy it. Like I said, I've done this. I graduated college. Dad, I've got this amount of money. All right, let's go look. And he told me what to do. And I didn't listen. And I spent way more money on a car than I ever needed to for a car that didn't last. Let's look at an example of how this mindset works. You can go backwards a couple slides, Paul, so we can take that stuff off real quick. We're going to look at credit card debt. Last week I told you the average person currently is in $16,000 in credit card debt. 2 years ago, that number was $14,500. That's what the average person was in credit card debt. So let's look at some real numbers. The average payment at an 18% interest rate for that $14,000 would be $217 a month. Now, a lot of people say, well, I can afford $217 a month. That's no big deal. I want to take my kids to Disneyland. Boom, $14,000. I'm nickel and diming my way up to $14,000. I had a medical expense that I didn't plan on. My car broke down. You get there in a lot of ways, but you get to $14,000. It's 18%. It's $217 a month, and it takes you 40 years to pay off that debt. Well, that's not a problem, right? Well, here's the total. You would pay $104,000 in credit card payments if you wait that whole time. You took your $14,000 payment and you tacked on $90,000. That's one expensive trip to Disneyland. That's one expensive that's one expensive car breaking down. What if you took that $14,000, had it in cash, and invested it? And since we're going 40 years out, you can get a really good rate. So we use the example 12%. I put $14,000 in investment, 12%. 40 years later, I'd have made $1.3 million. You see how the money starts to add up in your favor when you don't spend it versus how much it takes away from you when you do spend it? It seems mind-blowing. This can't be right. You spend it, 40 years, 104. You don't spend it, you save it, 1.3. Now, what if you take $14,000, put it in the investment, and every month you take that $217 you were going to pay for your minimum, and you just keep adding it. Now our total's $3,597,000 in 40 years. But no one tells you that. Investments are stupid, they're risky, just buy it, put it on the credit card. No one's going to pay minimum payments for 40 years. But the problem is you get in that debt and then something else happens, somebody lose your job. Minimum payments is the only way you can survive. There has to be a better way to live. And if we look at opportunities differently, we can start to see there's opportunities to be free. Right now, you're saying, I know a lot of you are thinking, this is stupid, this is crazy, this isn't real, no one does this, it doesn't work out, I'm not that type of person, it can't happen for me. Yeah, it can. Because right now, if you're living this lifestyle, and maybe it's not this extreme, you're paying some random person back east $90,000 extra. They're going on vacation with your money, their kids are going to college on your money, and you don't even know them. It's not going to your kids. It's not going to your family. It's not going to your neighborhood. It's not going to your church. It's not going to your community to make a difference. It's just making rich people richer. But you can live a different lifestyle. You can live differently. We just need to learn to sacrifice something we love for something we love more. And then when we do that, we will have more to make a difference. Money buys us time, buys us opportunity, buys us options to make a difference what we were all made to. And the third principle we need to remember is embrace the value of planning. Sometimes life comes at you fast. You can blink and it's been 20 years. This summer I had my high school reunion. It was 20 years. And I was like, there's no way that it's been 20 years since I went to high school. And then I saw all of our pictures, and I'm like, man, we look old. It's been 20 years, and at 19, I didn't plan what it was going to look like now. I had some ideas, but life comes quickly. We need to learn the value of planning. Jesus says this. These are his words. Jesus says in Luke 14:28, he says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? If you're going to do something, don't you want to see first if you have the money to do it? Now, this is a run of him talking and giving examples. Like, if you're going to do this, it'd be really easy. Like, natural, you would do this, right? If you're going to do this, wouldn't you normally do this? And this one he hits, if you're going to build something, wouldn't you make sure you have the money before you do it? Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. The writer's telling us, hey, make plans. That leads to your profit. If you don't make plans, it leads to poverty. See, we all can wander into debt. And a lot of us, we've just kind of lived life. It's caught us up. Kids came along, and we've wandered into debt. But we can't wander out. We have to make a strategic plan how to get out of debt. Next week, we're going to talk a lot about budgeting. We're going to talk about how to work our finances in a day-to-day, month-to-month operation. And Charity's going to talk about it because Jane taught her, and they've come up with a really great system. And we've got some other tools we want to teach you next week on how does this look? How do I make some of these choices and put them into my life? We've got some options through Dave Ramsey, who has some through his Financial Peace University. He's got some free resources to help you examine your bills and examine your lifestyle and figure out how to make some steps. And so I want to spend the rest of our service looking at some baby steps on how to get out of debt. Now, the first one, these all come from Dave Ramsey. Everybody heard of Dave Ramsey? If you haven't, he's a syndicated radio host. He's got a television show. He is Financial Peace University. I believe they're out of Tennessee. They travel the country and the world teaching people how to get out of debt. They have a real calling on their life to help God's people gain freedom in their life. Now, he has some programs that you pay for, but he's given us some free stuff, and we've connected with some people that have helped us find some free stuff so I can give you some easy, quick advice. So we're going to start with this first baby step, that is we need to save $1,000 for emergencies. And I know you're all saying, like, I don't even have $10. How am I going to save $1,000 for emergencies? And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I'm going to tell you some steps that'll help you. The first thing you need to do is download the app, Let Go or Offer Up. People will buy anything. All those clothes you haven't worn for months, somebody will pay you money for those. All your kids' shoes, somebody will pay you money for those. Bed sheets, pillows, movies you're not watching anymore, furniture you're not using, anything and everything that you don't use or don't need to survive, put it on OfferUp, put it on Let It Go, Craigslist, eBay, put it on the sites on Facebook, whatever it costs. Some of you, it's just going to mean you're going to have to sell a bunch of stuff. Because here's the thing. Either you get serious about finding the cash, or you're going to get an emergency, you're going to get the debit, you're going to get the debt. Somebody's going to break an arm in your family. Somebody's going to hurt themselves. Your car's going to break down. You're going to get in an accident. You're going to be on vacation. You're going to eat a peanut M&M and feel a crunch in your mouth and go, well, that's really weird. And as the night goes on, you're like, wow, I thought I got all the peanut out. What's this crumbling in my tooth? Oh, I think it's my tooth. And a week later, you're rolling on the ground because your tooth is broken and falling apart. That was me 3 years ago. $1,700 later, I got my crown fixed because I don't have dental insurance, so I had to pay it out of pocket. But luckily, Charity had put some money away to help us, because otherwise that was going on a credit card. But we don't want to live that way, so we put money aside. You don't want to live that way, so start finding places to pull money out of. And the second one is called the debt snowball. The debt snowball. Now, I told you we gathered some resources. Dave Ramsey, Craig Chrishell, who's the pastor of Life Church, Oklahoma, New York. I mean, they're all over the country right now. They gave us some resources. We've been using some of their material. And Craig's going to teach us via video. You've got some notes you can scribble on the second page there. He's going to show us how do we get out of debt using the debt snowball.
What I'm going to show you is what finance legend and my good friend Dave Ramsey calls the debt snowball. This is the absolute best and fastest way to get unstrapped and to free yourself from the bondage of debt. What I'm about to cover with you is one of the most important things that you can ever learn about your personal finances. Are you ready? Let's do it. Look at the bottom of your notes and let's attack this together. Here's what we've got. This is an imaginary list of our debts, what we owe to others. In this sample list, you'll see the different people or businesses we owe listed in the first column. In the second column, you'll find the amount that's owed to each one. You see, we owe $450 to Lowe's for the power tools that we always wanted, $650 to Target for the cute top, the belt, the earrings, and the hat to match, plus the ketchup, Oreos, and pickles, and all the other things you craved when you were pregnant. We also owe $1,600 to our parents, who let us borrow the money to replace our air conditioning unit when it went down, and so on. In the third column, you'll see the minimum payment. This is the minimum amount that we're required to pay each month, and we've been faithfully paying the minimum, but we are sick and tired of being strapped. So, what are we going to do? Again, what we're going to look at is something that could change your life forever. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to find an extra $200 a month. Now, you're probably thinking, where in the world am I going to find an extra $200 a month? And that's a good question. I don't know the answer to the question, but you will find it. You'll get very, very creative and find $200 extra a month. If you have to take a second job delivering pizzas, or if you have to eliminate your satellite television or your mobile data plan, or start brown bagging it, or skipping your $4 daily dose of overpriced caffeine, or whatever, you'll find $200 a month. And what you do with this $200 a month will change future generations. Here's how it'll play out. Let's start with Lowe's. We owe them $450. Your minimum payment, remember, is $50. Now, you'll pay them $50 and add to it the $200 that we just found, totaling $250 a month. And within a matter of only a couple of months, Lowe's is gone. Bye-bye, Lowe's. We'll never have to worry about that debt again. Now, we're going to let the money start to snowball away the debt. How will we do it? Now we're going to attack Target. We've already been paying Target $30 a month. Now we're going to take the $30 and add to it $250 a month. Now you may ask, where did we get $250 a month? You remember, we just freed up $250 a month because we paid off Lowe's. Now we're going to take that $250 and the $30, and together we have $280. And guess what? In just a matter of a couple of months, Target is gone as well, and the snowball is starting to get bigger. Now, let's take our parents. We're paying them $200 a month. We'll add to it the $280 that we freed up because we no longer have to pay Lowe's or Target, and now we've got $480 a month going to pay off Mom and Dad. Again, in a matter of a few short months, Mom and Dad are paid for, they're happy, we're happy, and we're going to take this money and let it grow every single month and apply it to the next debt that we owe, starting with the smallest amount of debt so we can knock it out, and going piece by piece down to the largest. We're going to pay off all of our debt with the debt snowball. We're going to wipe out everything we owe but the house. Now, how will this benefit you in the long run? Let me show you something that is really, really amazing. If you just continue to pay minimum payments, like so many people do, if you're taking notes, write this down. It's going to take you 120 months to pay off your debt. That's 10 years before you pay off all this debt, and that's assuming you don't take on any more. Now, watch this. If you do the debt snowball, your payoff time is not 120 months, not 10 years, but instead only 21 months. That's a difference of 99 months of not paying any debt. Can you say, wow? Now, buckle your seatbelt and get ready for this. If you take $1,110, now, Where did we get $1,110? If you look at the debt we just paid off, you freed up $1,110 a month in debt payments that you no longer have. If you take that money and invest it at 8% for that same 99 months that you would have been paying off your debt, at the end of that time period, guess how much money you'll have? You'll have $153,992.30. Check it out. In most parts of the world, what did that buy you? That will buy you a house paid for in cash, totally debt-free, including a house in only 10 years. You can do it if you'll get crazy with the debt snowball. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continual debt to love. We don't serve money, we serve God. Money serves us as we serve God. If you live like no one else, one day you can live like no one else.
I hope for most of you that video kind of sparks something within you. I hope it starts to light a fire in you that say, you know what? It might just be possible. You can live free. You can live debt-free, but it's going to take some sacrificial steps to get there. It's going to take grinding your teeth for a few months or a few years, but you can live life free. Our 4 goals here as a church: help you know God, find that freedom so you can discover your purpose, so ultimately you can make a difference. And God has a difference for you to make, and He has a plan for your life, and He wants you to be free. So this isn't like, well, this shouldn't be going in church. The church should be the place teaching you how to get free. And I want you to get free and to live something that I get right now. There's some of you, you're looking at me like, I've heard this sales pitch before. I've heard this. I pray that this is the opportunity and this is the time that you take that opportunity. This is the off-ramp to the misery that you're living right now. You want to sleep better? This is the off-ramp. And I get, in our life, there is sometimes nothing more comforting than chaos. Chaos is predictably unpredictable. I can predict that it's going to be unpredictable, and I can learn to ride the wave. I can learn to ride the roller coaster. It's going to be good, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be good, it's going to be terrible. I don't know what peace looks like. That's too scary. I'm not good enough. I was born in the wrong neighborhood. I'm on government assistance. I'm not allowed to have that. Says who? My God offers a peace that goes beyond all understanding. My God says, shh, and the waves stop moving. My God doesn't even do that. He then walks on the water just to say, remember, I created it, I own it, it's all mine. And He offers each one of us that peace. This is the tangible, practical definition of what peace can look like in your life is, I sacrifice for a while, I make some plans, I'm diligent, I learn to say no, and in a few years, my life is totally different. It's totally different. My grandkids get to have a life that my kids and I never get to have. This city gets to have the blessing. See, God's plan is always to give you more than you need. Now, we're all spending more than He gives us. But His plan is to give you more than you need so you can take the extra and use it to make a difference in this world. You're the conduit to pass through. Now, some of us didn't learn that. It's okay. I made the mistakes too. Let's buckle down. Let's get free. Use the snowball. Use some of these other tips. We'll help guide you through. We got a couple more weeks. And let's get off of this roller coaster. Let's get off the merry-go-round. Let's be different. Let's live differently so we can have a life like no one else. Amen? Let's bow our heads. Let's pray.